It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.
Hey guys, Tyler here. Like with everybody else in the rest of the world, I've been paying close attention to this Kyle Rittenhouse case that's been going on for the past few days, and I noticed there was a lot of comments that were done by the prosecution team against Kyle Rittenhouse that I found to be really fishy. And so for this video, I'm going to talk about the top 5 failures that I noticed throughout the whole entire prosecution team for this whole entire case. At number 5 were the whole entire comments that were targeting video games. During a series of questionnaires, it seemed as though that the prosecution team tried to suggest that Kyle Rittenhouse was inspired by video games.
Isn't one of the things people do in these video games try and kill everyone else with your guns?
Yeah, in the video game, it's just a video game, it's not real life.
As everybody knows at this point, it's not the first time that any sort of politician or political figure have tried going after video games, mostly because in the 1990s, people like Jack Thompson always blamed video games for violence, and of course Anita Sarkeesian is blaming video games for sexism, and so video games have always been a target for political figures, and so no matter what you do, even Donald Trump went after video games for some strange reason is always going to be put to blame for mass shootings or awful things. The most recent study was done by Oxford, and more or less there is no sort of correlation at all between video games and real life violence. And so it's just so weird to me why the whole entire persecution team decided to say, well, you see, Kyle Rittenhouse was inspired by video games. That's very nice, that's very cheap of you guys to do that. At number 4 is the whole entire weapons inside the proceedings. At some point in the whole entire trial within the Kyle Rittenhouse case, the same sort of persecutor had brought the weapon inside of the whole entire jury, the whole entire court, and he started to use the weapon and just pointed the weapon at the crowd of people. And when I first saw this whole entire thing, I thought it was fake, I thought it was not real at all. But that was completely reckless to bring that weapon and of course started to point it at people. Now, according to reports, it's been stated that the weapon was actually, empty, thank God. But at the same time, when I saw that whole entire image, I was actually scared. Because recently, there was a shooting that happened during the set for an Alec Baldwin movie, right? And so, I thought for a single second that guy was going to pull out a Alec Baldwin. And so, even if that weapon was to be empty, it's still not a good idea to point it at a crowd of people. And more so to the point, according to the guidelines for safety, one of the first rules of having a weapon is to treat the gun like it's always armed. And so, pointing a weapon at a crowd of people, that is not, of course, okay. At number 3 is this idea that you lose the right to self-defense if you have a weapon.
That Joseph Rosenbaum was going to take that gun and use it on the defendant because they know you can't claim self-defense against an unarmed man like this. You lose the right to self-defense when you're the one who brought the gun, when you're the one creating the danger, when you're the one provoking other people.
This whole entire reasoning is completely dangerous. Now let's try to do the whole entire opposite of this whole entire argument and just say, well, you see, the main reason why this girl got raped was because she brought a skirt, and so you got raped because of that skirt. Imagine if somebody said that thing out loud to a rape victim. That would be really awful, and therefore it justifies rape because that woman somehow brought a skirt. Now, it doesn't necessarily matter why somebody has a weapon or whatnot, because obviously sometimes people feel unsafe, and so that's why they have some sort of gun or some sort of protection to help them out. And so naturally, whether there's like a good reason why somebody has a weapon or not, doesn't necessarily mean they cannot prepare themselves for the worst thing that could actually happen. And so this whole entire argument doesn't make much sense because obviously it doesn't necessarily matter what reason somebody has a weapon to protect themselves. And not only that though, but this whole entire idea that the people that got shot in that whole entire night were somehow, victimless and had no weapons whatsoever. I'm sorry, like in the footage, we saw like a guy with a skateboard that was trying to attack, of course, like Cal, and there was also a guy who had like some sort of gun too that was also trying to attack Cal. They were chasing him, right? And so because they were chasing him, because they were attacking him, that's why he did self-defense. And so this whole entire reasoning seems to suggest that if he had not had that gun, of course, he should take the beating. And that is crazy to me. That is like really crazy logic to allow somebody to take a beating just because you don't feel comfortable with somebody having a gun in the first place. At number 2 is this ridiculous idea that you must always use your fist when it comes down to self-defense.
Clearly, if there is provocation, he's guilty. But even outside of provocation, why do you get to immediately just start shooting? As Mr. Binger said, he brought a gun to a fist fight. And he was too cowardly to use his own fist to fight his way out. He has to start shooting.
Like I said earlier, this type of idea that self-defense is meant to be some sort of equalizer, to me, makes no sort of sense whatsoever. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that somehow the people that were attacking Cal Rittenhouse had no weapons whatsoever. Is he still justified to shooting the people if they pose a threat to his whole entire well-being? And the answer is still yes. Even if a person is small, that person who is small can still attack a person and still poses as a threat. Similarly, a person could be big or large and attack somebody, and of course you have to attack back for like self-defense. And so I don't think necessarily that self-defense is meant to be some sort of game of being equal by, of course, using fists instead of a weapon. And so even if somebody was just using their fists against you and they're attacking you and you use a gun for self-defense, I still think that is justified. And so this idea that somehow that Cal Rittenhouse should just lay on the ground and take all the punches and potentially die from that gun, that doesn't make much sense to me. It does not make much sense to me at all. At number 1 is the fact that the prosecution team decided to remove video evidence for the defense team for Cal Rittenhouse. Now, video evidence is a key component besides the eyewitnesses for this whole entire case, because the whole entire event was extremely well documented. And so, obviously, you need some sort of video evidence to prove the point that, of course, Cal Rittenhouse is innocent. And so this whole entire idea that you should not have some sort of video evidence to actually support your client is very ridiculous, if you were to ask me. Because ultimately, in the end, the whole entire factor on whether he's convicted to be guilty or innocent lies heavily on that video footage. The whole entire prosecution team, whether you believe that Cal Rittenhouse was innocent like I do or not innocent, I still think everybody could agree that the prosecution team was like awful, like dead awful. Like they're like the stereotype of a prosecution team I would see on law TV. The corruption, the manipulation of the data, like they're really, really terrible. But what do you guys think about this whole entire case? Tell me in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.
It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. He's your only black friend, so he's your best black friend. I wouldn't trade him for another black friend, because black friends are rare, as you should be aware. He smiles like Richard Pryor, so just sit and stare. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.